Matt sat up, his eyes fixated on the star. Their hands fell away. The unguarded expression on his face as he looked up made him appear younger than he was. She sat up beside him and wondered if he was thinking about someone he'd lost. Liz thought of her mother. She would have been horrified to see her cavorting with a bastard-born soldier half-naked in the woods. This was definitely not what her mother would have expected by Liz promising to live a full life. What made she and Matt so different? They were both slaves to the circumstances of their births. If she had been born without a father, like Matt, where would she be now? Not running for her life in an underdress for certain. Looking at Matt now, completely without obligation, she realized she envied his inherent freedom. He didn't realize how lucky he was to have been born a bastard, without the expectations of a family or kingdom to weigh him down. Sometimes Liz thought she could drown beneath it all. Running for her life these last few weeks had been the first time she could finally breathe freely. "Have you ever loved a woman?" she asked, watching as his startled eyes fell from the stars, and a crooked grin twisted onto his lips. "That's not polite to discuss, is it?" The heat built up in her cheeks, and she was grateful the fire was dying, the light scarce.
"I suppose not."
He rested an arm on his knee and pulled her chin up so her eyes met his. For a long time, he just stared at her, searching for something. She wanted to kiss him when he looked at her that way. It was intoxicating, knowing he was one of the only people in the whole kingdom of Aegeus who didn't know her as the Red Princess. There were no titles between them, no prophecies, no curses, only given names. So for tonight, at least, they were equals. Tomorrow they would be at the hunting lodge, and when they arrived, lines would be drawn. In front of the others, they would be forced into contrived roles of propriety that Liz didn't know if she believed in anymore. But Liz didn't want there to be any barriers between them. Not yet. Her mother's voice echoed in the back of her mind, asking her to live well. She had never been attracted to anyone before, and Matt scared her on some level. She didn't know if it was because of the attraction she felt growing between them, or because their time together was limited. Soon, much sooner than she wanted to admit, Matt would die. In her visions, the battle happened during the first blizzard of winter, after the snow stuck to the ground. Even now the air was getting colder, the leaves beginning to fall. Part of her longed to tell him. If she did, not only would he think she was crazy, he would never again look at her the way he was right now.
"What are you thinking about?"
he asked her, and for some reason, she couldn't think of anything other than the truth. "What it would be like if you kissed me right now." He sucked in a sharp breath and leaned his forehead against hers. She held her breath when his nose brushed her own, his eyes darkened with pain.
"Why would you tell me something like that?"
His voice came out hot, raw. It set her heart pounding rapidly against her ribs. He leaned back and his clear green eyes looked at her in agony. "Because you asked." She bit her bottom lip to keep the rest of her thoughts from spilling out haphazardly.
"I vowed to keep you safe until we got you to Fangorn,"
he said, his voice coming out in a long, smooth groan. "I don't understand."
"I mean to keep my oath, even if it means keeping you safe from me."
His thumb brushed her dirt-smeared cheek. "I wouldn't have agreed if I'd known that," she told him, teasing. It elicited one of his crooked grins, the kind that usually infuriated her. Liz pushed a stray curl behind her ear. "I've never been kissed before," she confided in him. He didn't look at her as if she were foolish, like she feared he might. "I was thinking about the last thing my mother said to me, about living well, and how there are so many things I want to try. Diving off the white cliffs of Moor, drinking spirits, kissing." Matt opened his mouth to say something when she heard Gareth's voice from across the fire.
"Gods be damned, I didn't make an oath."
Gareth rose from his spot and walked over to stand before Liz, ruffling his hair and blinking himself into wakefulness. He held a rough hand out to her, and she allowed him to pull her gently to her feet. "Oh, Liz cleared her throat nervously and faced Gareth. She hesitated for a moment, unsure. Then she felt the threads of fate winding tightly around them both.